Alrighty. Well, welcome everybody to the Hour of Sales Power. This is Joe Crisara, your host, and it looks like the subject for today's meeting is how to create more value with higher prices, meaning that when you have a higher price, that you need to create more value when you're out there. Let's face it, selling is not selling where it's easy is just lowering your price and getting the job. They wouldn't call it selling, would they?
No, that'd be order taking, right?
Yeah, and even then, let's face it, if that's all it took was to get a low price to get the job, would you get very many jobs? Probably.
No.
Because how often are you the lowest price, Rick?
I'm never the lowest price. So, and there's always seemed to be somebody that can be a little bit lower.
I'm sure. And so if you were the lowest, even if your boss gave you the agreement to say, yeah, go ahead and lower your price as low as you could get it, there's no guarantee that's going to get it done. Matter of fact, I think that might be the thing that would lose you jobs, wouldn't it? Probably. Exactly,
because there's no value to the job. If it's so cheap, they're going to think that's so cheap. There's got to be something wrong with it.
Yeah, and on top of it, what kind of belief can you have in your product and your service if you're always going cheap on things? If you're trying to sell things for a cheaper price, well then the laws of nature tell us that when things are cheaper priced, there's got to be something missing, right?
Right, something's going to be taken out somewhere. You can't provide the same quality and service if you get a cheap price.
Right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can how can we possibly take a price that is the price, whatever price it is, and we can leverage this price to be more valuable, to make the price sound more valuable. Now, what are some key elements, Rick? Do you want to? I got some ideas of my own, and of course, they're just ideas that I have, rolling around my brain. But does anybody else have? Do you have any ideas, Rick, of anything that you could share with us that that add value to before you give your price? Anything you can think of?
Well, yeah. I think it even starts from the introduction. Even before I show them my first price, I tell them, my first option for you here isn't a Cadillac. It's not the Cadillac. It's really the Rolls Royce or the Bentley of heating and air conditioning system. So this is kind of the very best. So even right from the introduction of going into my presentation, I prepare them right away that this is going to be expensive. So
I think that's true, Rick. I think that obviously the time to build value on price is right before you give your presentation. It's probably the best or easiest time to build value within your price.
Right.
But there are some things that are done earlier in the presentation that create higher value too, right? So let's talk about right from the beginning, and then what I want to cover today, Rick, is we're going to cover this thing we call the money warning, which is really a tactic that we use to condition your customer for a higher price so that they kind of expect the higher price before you give it to them. We're going to talk about that. But let's go ahead and reel it back a little bit and talk about the first parts of the calls and how these also communicate that your company is probably going to have a higher price to the customer. Because let's face it, when you walk into the best hotel in downtown Providence, Rhode Island, where you're from, Rick, there's got to be some kind of indication that this hotel probably costs a lot for each night, right?
Right, exactly.
When you walk in that lobby, something's saying, I'll bet this is more than $69 a night, right? Like, what are the indications that when you walk in the hotel that there might be something different?
Right. Well, obviously by the decor and the location and how everybody's dressed, and there's a lot of different things that can send the signal that this is not going to be a cheap place to stay at. Right.
So right in the very beginning, many times you go to some kind of a restaurant or some kind of a a food place or even a hotel where there's something that's communicating to the average person that this is going to be a little bit more than the average purchase. That it's not going to be a McDonald's hamburger, right? It's not going to be a Motel 6. And so I think the salesperson on the sales call also gives off a vibe that I'm either low rent or else I'm somebody who looks like they're going to get a higher price and acts like they're going to get a higher price on this call, right? So what are some of the things that create value about that, Rick? Can you think of anything on the very first part of the call?
Well, I guess the easiest thing I can think of is how you physically look. Looking like a professional when you go there. Again, if you went there in all tattered clothes and didn't look the part, I think there's no way to make a first impression again. So I think that's one area that you really have to be cognizant of how you're going to present yourself.
So if you go there with a wife beater and some shorts,
that's probably not going to work. Yeah,
probably not going to be good, right?
No, probably not going to be good. Or old beat up truck. You get out of the truck and you open the door, a bunch of stuff falls out, and you spend 5 minutes picking up the stuff and throwing it back in. That's probably not going to send the kind of signal you're looking to send.
Okay, so there's a definite way you look. I mean, let's face it, looking too good probably doesn't work in your advantage. Looking too bad doesn't work in your advantage.
Exactly,
right. Find just the right look, right? So something which says I'm professional but doesn't obviously create issues with customers that this is
overcharging, right? Yeah.
Why is this guy wearing an Armani suit, for instance? Like
exactly.
You walk in looking like Phil Jackson with an Armani suit, or Pat Riley with an Armani suit. You might not be received very well. So that might not be good. And wearing the wife beater and shorts wouldn't be good. That's true too.
Right.
So now let's take it to the next step. Let's look at it from beyond that. Now we're talking to the customer. What is it about the language and whatnot that you do that either creates value or loses value, do you think, right there? It makes people think this is going to cost a lot or it's not going to cost a lot. Anything on the beginning part of it?
Well, I mean, I just think it's how you communicate with the customer. First of all, finding out what their need is. I mean, you go into the call and you're really you're trying to find out what your services that you need, and by asking them certain questions, you can find out, and they'll disclose to you, and they'll find out that you're really listening to what they have to say.
So when you listen and just be quiet and listen what's going on, so what inspired you to call us out here today, and the language you use, and creating scarcity in the first part. Like, are you sure this is a good time to do this call? Maybe we should reschedule it if it's not a good time for you. If you're not going to decide, then we don't have to do the call today. So you start taking things away from people, maybe creating scarcity at the very first part at the door when somebody's saying, we're just kind of thinking about getting an air conditioning unit. Remember you told me when you were busy?
Right.
And you had customers saying, we're just kind of getting we're just chewing on some numbers for a new AC system when it was like 95 degrees outside. Remember, what were you telling people when that happened?
I said to them, how long have you lived in the house? Well, we've been here 20 years. I'm like, well, you lived here 20 years. Well, they see what do you need it now? I mean, if I were you, I would just, what have you been doing up till now? Well, we've been putting window units in. I said, well, something wrong with the window units?
So now all of a sudden they have to convince you. So the second the customer starts selling you on the call, like, listen, Rick, I'm sick of doing the windows. I want to get this work done. Plus, I got a newborn infant coming. We got to get this house in shape before that baby comes home.
Right.
Now all of a sudden, has that elevated the aspect of what I'm willing to do or what I'm willing to pay? Has the price maybe gone up a little bit, figuratively speaking?
Absolutely.
So from that standpoint.
Right. And I'll give you another example. I called you up on Saturday about a call that I had, and the lady had given me a commitment to make a decision, and she said to me, well, this is an awful lot of money. She said, I think, maybe I should get other prices. And I said to her, what's this maybe stuff? I mean, if you feel that way, you should definitely get other prices. She says, well, is it completely less to me? I said, well, I would suppose they would definitely have to be less to me. So, I think you should definitely get other prices. I mean, if that's how you feel. Well, when you're going to be able to get the work done? I said, well, it doesn't really matter if you're not comfortable with the price. If you don't feel that our company is worth what I've shown you, and that that we're going to provide you the best service and product, you should really call somebody else and get another price. Yeah, but I want it done. You said you could do it Monday. I'm like, well, don't pressure me here. you said you want to get another price.
We got time, so you're going to get prices,
Yeah, you're starting to really make me feel pressured, So by me starting to take it away and not say, oh, you don't need other prices, by me telling her, well, if that's how she feels, she should do it, it created more value for what I was offering because I wasn't trying to talk her into it now.
Yeah, she's like, this guy must be solid in what he's offering since you're not desperate to tell her not to get prices. Because a lot of salespeople say, now, why would you want to get prices? That doesn't make sense. Right.
As soon as you encourage them to do that, people who haven't done that should really try it. It's unbelievable how natural it feels.
Yeah.
Just to say, because whenever you try to sell something, you can tell you're doing something wrong. By me telling this customer doesn't have to get other prices, it feels wrong.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're telling them they're wrong. So the only thing you can do is agree with them and say, well, if that's how you feel, you really should get other prices. Let me ask you, what are you hoping to find when you get these other prices? Well, I'm sure there'll be someone that can do this for less money. I said, absolutely, someone will do it. That's true. Absolutely, someone will do it for less money. So you don't have to. Then you can get into a little bit of like, well, do you think you're going to get the same thing, or what do you think about that? You know what I mean?
Right.
well, I don't think they're going to be here Monday. So you help them to discover it yourself, but also you're producing more value to them because of just how you're making yourself more scarce.
Because you're giving them freedom, and you're saying, listen, I don't care if you go with me or not. Just go get more prices then. If you're not comfortable, if you're not comfortable with my services, you should get other prices. If I'm not clearly better than other people, you should just go with those people.
Right, exactly.
Now, when somebody says that to somebody, to me, that creates value in a huge way. Right. Because now it's like, man, this guy's not even, he's totally giving me freedom to do what I want.
And you know what I use a lot that really works good? It's like, I'm really not comfortable with doing the work for you now, if that's how you feel. I'm not really comfortable doing this. I don't feel comfortable about our arrangement.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah. Like, so somebody gets like, I should get some other prices. Well, you're right, John. I don't feel comfortable either. If you don't feel comfortable working with me, I don't feel comfortable working with you either.
Right.
And what do you say that for? Probably, right?
Right. And then what happens is now they're trying to make me comfortable.
No, Rick. I think you're going to do a good job for us. Believe me. I think they start trying to pull you back in, right?
And I said, well, just a minute ago I said you want to get other prices. What's changed? Oh, I was being foolish. I really want to get this done. All right, what should I do now?
So that does create value. I mean, I think that when you get the customer actually pulling you toward the sale, I think that's a huge part of it. When somebody says, we got to get a bunch of other prices, just so you know, we're going to get 5 other prices. And I'd say, yeah, you should definitely get them. I mean, if all you're looking for is the cheapest system, you should definitely just keep shopping until you find the cheapest price. But can I ask you a question? Why is the cheapest way best? I mean, is that how you feel that you're going to buy the system? That's okay, I guess. But and if you're going to look for the cheapest price, you should definitely find somebody else beside us because we're not going to be the cheapest one. Right. You can even tell people that, right?
Right. I do that all the time. And I tell them, people don't call Gem Plumbing because we're the cheapest.
Oh, no.
So if that's what you're looking for, then we're not for you.
Yeah, that's good. That's huge.
Right.
And so now let's talk about the second part where you eliminate the competition to some degree. If you can get them talking about the competition just by saying, so how's it going? How are the estimates going for you? I'm sure it sounds like you got some really good people who came here, and you got some people who are really on the ball. Do you ever do stuff like that and talk about the competition?
All the time. What I want to get them to do is talk about the competition and talk about us. So first I say, so let me ask you, I'm always trying to improve in my communication with my customers and my service to my customer. What did you like about those other guys? If you don't mind sharing with me, is that all right? What did you like about those guys that came here?
Uh-huh.
And 90% of the time it's negative, because if it was really positive, they would have already purchased from them.
And they go, well, actually, the one guy wouldn't. You ever have somebody say, like, the one guy wouldn't leave? You sit here all night trying to sell it?
All the time he says, oh, the other guy was here for 2 hours, and we couldn't get him out of here. I had even told someone there the guy was there for 4 hours, and all these books and all this stuff, and he says, please, you're not going to do that. I said, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Then I had another one tell me, listen, the guy was here 2 weeks ago. I've called him 4 times. He said he's going to email me an estimate, and I haven't received anything from him yet. I'm like, really? Email an estimate?
How does that impact the value when somebody says they're going to send an estimate right away and they don't send one for 2 weeks?
Right. I say, and then I said they're going to email an estimate. I says, I wonder if you ever need service from them, I wonder if they're going to email you the service.
They're going to email the service guy out here. Maybe he's going to. I always like that one when people say, the guys. I still got a proposal coming in the mail, and then I say to that, Rick. Then I go, really? He's not going to make a presentation to you? I mean, that's kind of weird. So he's comfortable just mailing a presentation, and I mean, what kind of service is it where he won't even present his own options to you? I don't understand that.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
So,
yeah. I'll tell you one thing. I know in particular in the Boston area, there's a lot of companies who mail proposals to people.
Right.
To me, that is like it's like the death sentence on your sales for me, as far as I'm concerned. That's a good way to kill your sales, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's true.
So if somebody's out there still mailing proposals to people, man, that's about the most dysfunctional. That's about the lowest form of sales you can make.
Right.
You won't even make your own presentation in person.
Right. It's almost like going to a restaurant. Almost like going to a restaurant and having them mail you the meal.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's not good service. I mean, the good service is delivering it. Make sure you like it. Make sure that everything's cooked the right temperature, and that's what service is all about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you order something, the waitress took an order and said, "All right, it's in the kitchen. Come pick it up." That's not service. Right. And it's the same thing with our agreements with our customers. There's all kinds of other reasons not to do it as far as proprietary information, that type of thing. But most of all, it's just about not good quality service.
Right. That is funny, isn't it? Is that I don't think a lot of people realize how little value there is. That those people who mail proposals like that have more or less just given up to say it's all price. People only buy on price. It's very dysfunctional. They don't realize how dysfunctional they are. That everybody thinks that it's just about price, or those people in particular think that they're going to buy on price anyway. Why even make a presentation?
Right, and it's another way too. I was meeting with a housewife, and she told me that she was gathering the estimates and getting them mailed. And I said to her, "Do you mind if I ask you a question? How does it make you? Doesn't it make you feel a little pressured to have to get all these and then try to explain them to your husband?" Oh, she says, "I hate that." I says, I really hate doing this because they talk about all that kind of stuff, and then I got to explain it to him. I have no idea. Right. I'm like, well, I would be more than willing if this is okay with you. If it would help you out, I'd be happy to come back any night or weekend or anytime your husband's around. And you know what? Because I think it would be malpractice for me to expect you to explain my products and services to your husband. That wouldn't be fair to you.
That's right.
Oh, you would do that? I said, well, would you help me? Well, what's your husband looking for? You're going to help me out here? Oh, yes, I'll help you out. I'll call him right now.
That's awesome.
So I ended up getting the job with her help. I mean, she helped me, told me what he was looking for.
Yeah, because everybody else is saying, go ahead and do it. Basically, what I was saying that one, Rick, I said, well, hang on for a second, Karen. I mean, the other guys are making you do a do-it-yourself presentation, and you have to do your own presentation to yourself?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. I mean,
even worse to her husband.
So you're going to make. Let me ask you a question, Karen. Are you going to get a commission when you sell the job to your husband for these guys?
Right.
So I always say, wait a second. Are you going to get? Are those guys going to give you at least a commission for selling the job, like 8% or something like that?
Right. Exactly.
And they're like, no, I'm not even getting a commission. Wow, that's terrible.
Right.
So don't you think that's part of it too? Is that how functional you are relative to other people? Other people are out there, leaving proposals behind. Go ahead and talk to your husband. You make the presentation to your husband. I won't make. You go ahead and make your own presentation. I don't want to make the presentation. You make it. Pretty much that's the impression people get. Let's face it, guys. If you are letting your customer do their own presentation, you get whatever sale you get what you deserve, which is nothing. Right. You won't get any jobs like that. That's terrible.
Right. Then if you do that, you deserve to be only chosen by price. Because you haven't provided any service, you're really not worth any more than that because you haven't provided any exceptional service.
And so to kind of start the ball rolling on that, you say, hey, so it sounds like you had some great people out here. I mean, hey, if you were me, what could you learn from? What can I learn from those guys? I'm just kind of learning about sales. Of course, they don't realize that you're learning at the point of about $6 million a year or $25,000 a day. They don't realize that.
Right.
We don't got to tell them that. We can just tell them that you're learning because you are learning sales still, right, Rick?
Oh, the only way I think that you can truly be proficient is always to gather more information on how you can be better. It's the only way you're ever going to move forward. But the funny thing is, when you do ask that question, most of the time, what the customer says is, "Oh, I don't think you could learn anything from them." You know what I mean? Every once in a while, someone will say something, I really liked he did this or he did that. You know what I mean? I really liked he measured every window or he did this or he did that. And I'll make sure I'll do those things. But most of the time...
Get your measuring tape out, right?
Yeah, exactly. But most of the time you find out how dysfunctional the rest of your competition really is.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? Now, it's amazing you can find that information out so easily because people just love to confide in people who are asking about the system itself or the process. Basically, you're asking about the process itself, and that's why people reveal it. Everybody else is asking about equipment or SEER and BTUs. You're just asking about, so how are you finding it to buy this stuff? Is it easy? Or how's it going so far? Is it is the industry treating you good? And for the most part, they're going to say no. They're not treating you good at all.
How are you enjoying the process? Are you enjoying this process?
Oh, it's like pulling teeth. If I can enjoy pulling teeth,
enjoyment is not the word that comes to mind.
Exactly. So, however easy you can make the process, however easy you make the presentation seem, and the fact that you're willing to make the presentation yourself and not let your customer make their own presentation, then that is a perception that you have another more high value. You're willing to make. The fact that you're willing to make 2 trips out there, Rick, that makes it more valuable too. You're not pressuring people. You don't got to decide today. Let's just decide a different day when you're ready to make a purchase. You don't have to. you don't got to make a decision today. Let me just come back a different day. But what I won't do, though, is you won't leave behind your presentation, right, Rick?
Right. Exactly right.
If you leave behind the presentation, you're leaving behind proprietary company information. So if people don't want to decide, that's fine. I won't make a presentation then today.
Right.
So I think being functional. What communication about the value of your services does just being functional mean? Meaning that if you're dysfunctional, it means something like, here's my presentation. You say, can I keep the presentation and think it over? You go, oh yeah, of course, go ahead. And that's very dysfunctional. Even every customer knows that's dysfunctional because now you're saying, here's your free information, free engineering, and free everything, and let me go ahead and figure it out. How could you work and you've already established the value of your time, haven't you? If you spend 2 hours an hour and then you're giving away the information for free, that must not be worth much. Establish what the value of your time is, doesn't it?
Right. I tell you a quick story about perception of value. I had a friend of mine. He's an old guy, and he's the type of guy he'd go to the dump and come back with more stuff than he went to the dump with. But what he did, he had some old tires out in the front of the house that a bunch of stuff he was trying to get rid of, and he put out there free, take whatever you want. And it sat there, and it sat there, and it sat there. And his name was Mr. Munjo. I said, Mr. Munjo, that stuff's been out there forever. He says, yeah, I really can't get rid of it, but I got an idea. So he went out there with a marker, and he started putting $10 on the tire, and he put $7 on something else and something else. Well, over the next week, people came by and they stole it.
I'll just take the tires. I'm going to steal this guy's $10 tires, huh?
Right,
That's
because
funny.
he put a price on it. It felt it was worth something. And
now it's got value, so now I got to steal the tires.
Right, everybody come by and see it, no one be around, and they stole all the stuff, and he got rid of it.
That's funny.
Because it was a perceived value, and the value was whatever he put on it.
Yeah, that's funny. Like, hey, Rick, let me ask you a question. Like, when, you told me many times that, I just want to go back to you learning about sales and the whole thing where you say, hey, I'm just kind of learning about sales. What can I learn from those people?
Right.
You told me many times that you come to this show and you even though you're doing well already, you come here to the show. And what's the reason you say at the end of the show you usually call me about 5 minutes after and go, you know what? What do you usually tell me at the end of the show? Maybe 5 minutes after you call me.
What happens is it keeps me energized and fresh, but also it keeps me on the straight and narrow, because sometimes you get into habits that you're not supposed to be doing, and by talking about them and verbalizing them, you can re-solidify the importance of them in your mind and get right back on the right track. So, I like to do this and talk about this because it helps me to continue to move in the right direction, and it re-energizes me. I also get very lonely. You're out on the road, or you're doing these different things, you're talking with the customers, and sometimes you could talk to other people about, the things you go through. You can find better ways of doing things and feel like you're not always out. I always say sales is a very lonely job. Sometimes it's just you're out there on your own, it seems. So it's good to, talk to the people and become re-energized.
Yeah, and then you're learning too. It's
right.
Through
Absolutely.
the process, you're always learning more. Even a guy like you who sells what you sell, still. And the funny thing is that I'll try and talk to a guy who's selling like $700,000 a year, Rick.
Right.
And I'll say, you should come to one of the classes. Well, he goes, I already got myself set up. I already went to the boot camps, and I know what I'm doing. I say, hey, listen, I sold $700,000 last year.
Oh, I pick up stuff all the time, and then I'll say, you know what? I got to get better at that. I'm going to do that next time. And if it wasn't coming to these meetings as much as I could, on Thursday night and talking about it, when a customer would ask me about, maybe I should get the prices, I would catch myself falling back into trying to sell them onto not getting other prices. See? But by coming to the meeting every week and learning about it and hearing it, it's automatic in my mind that I don't do that now. Whereas if I didn't come to this every week, I would fall back into old habits, and it would cost me more sales.
Yeah, you're right. Ultimately, it would cost you more.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about now. So just dealing with your comparison of your functionality versus the competition, that's a big issue. Let's talk about the money warning and the thing where we kind of condition customers for the price. So once you get your presentation together, then there's the issue about right before the presentation, we do a little magic on people, and that magic is to kind of warn people at the first option. I got to tell you right now. So here's what I was doing. I'm going to break this down for everybody. And Rick, you might even I might even develop a little more specific behavior at this point that maybe even you can benefit from, because it might help you get more solid in this area too. I'm sure it sounds like you're doing great already, but I don't think $25,000 a day working 6 days a week, that's a lot to do. But
But still, 30,000 would be better.
30,000, you never know. It might be even better. Just close that one more deal a week, you might get 30,000 a week a day.
Right.
But I think that this is key now. This money warning area where basically it does two things. It kind of saves you. It kind of makes you feel more comfortable that I'm going to create a high price for somebody, and I want to make sure everybody's comfortable when I show the price, right?
Right. And it's really not fair for me to reveal a high price to them without warning them first.
Yeah, you have to give them a soft landing. You have to say,
right.
Let me go ahead and let me go ahead and put some padding down here, so when you see these prices, when you fall over, you don't hit your head.
Right.
More or less, you don't hurt yourself when you see this first option. And so there's basically two different parts to it, and actually three different parts to it, three different phases of this part of it. The first thing I always like to do, Rick, and I'm not sure about you, I always go, you know what, John? I looked the system over, and I got to tell you something. Although I know you're thinking about replacing it, and I tell you it's good you are, because I really don't like what I'm seeing right now with the system, and it's really got some major issues with it. But don't worry, I got some options for you. So the first thing I do is just that. I just say, you know what? I don't like what I'm seeing. I've got some major issues here, but don't worry, I've got some solutions for you. So just hang in there with me, okay? And then I go deeper. I say, now here's what I'm finding. Now I'm getting specific. I say, we have a restriction in the air distribution intake system. You basically got a 60% restriction. Your capacity is 100% capacity. You're only getting 40% of the air, heating and air that you're paying for. So we have a restriction there. Secondly, this is about the most inefficient system that money could buy that you have in there right now. This is built in 1950s, and this furnace is extremely old and very inefficient. It's about half the efficiency of a new system. So the air distribution system and the equipment and the air conditioning system, very inefficient. Plus, I'm finding also that there's many holes in the ductwork that's leaking the air you're paying for, whatever you are paying for, into the air. And it's really kind of not very eco-friendly, and it's also just wasting money. But don't worry, I got some options for you. So basically now I get specifically into it like I just did there, and then I say, but don't worry, I got some options for you. Then I go into phase three, which is now I describe the presentation. I go, well, the first option you're not going to like a lot. It's going to be, this is the platinum premium way of doing this thing, kind of like the Rolls-Royce way of going about this system. This is only for the people who usually want the finest, so you're probably not going to want this one. But do me a favor, I got a cheaper one. I got cheaper ones at the bottom. Just take a look at those, and you're probably going to find something you like down there for a little bit less money. Okay. Either way. Now we're in the last part. This is kind of like phase 4. Don't shoot the messenger when you hear what I have to say. Just look at all the options and just take a look at them and see what you think. And that's pretty much the money warning. Now, let's look at how that creates value. When a guy like Rick, who looks like a real professional, comes in the house, he's getting along with the customer, and all of a sudden he gets into this phase. Rick, does this draw more attention to your presentation and make your presentation seem more important, do you think?
Absolutely, because they're interested now. And it's like, oh, I have something behind the curtain over here. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. You ready to see it?
Uh-huh.
That's what you see. So what you're doing is you're creating an what's that word? I can't say that word tonight.
Anticipation.
Anticipation. That's it.
Yeah.
So that they really want
to.
Yeah, anticipation. I don't know why I couldn't say that. I had to hear you say it first.
So like my dad can't say the word chimney. He says chimney.
Yeah, I can usually say that. I think my name is drink of water. But what you want to do is now they're really interested in what you have to show, and now they're like, all right, show it to me.
I want to see this. I want to see it.
I want to see it. Right.
If a professional like you is concerned about the price,
right?
If they see a guy like Rick come in with all this stuff, his good looking. He's got his shirt on and his laptop and all the stuff he's doing there. He looks like a real professional. And even you're concerned about the price?
Right.
They're like, man, if this guy is worried about the price, imagine what this is going to cost. This is going to be like more than, I'll bet this is like $40,000. So basically what you're doing is that through your own concern and your own dissonance about, man, I'm just almost afraid to show this to you, Ken, because you kept saying that you're interested in a low price. I tell you right now, you're going to freak when you see the first one. It's going to be extremely not low priced. It's going to be a high investment because it is the finest. I can tell you, you probably might like it, but you're probably not going to like it when you see the price. So do me a favor, just hang in there for the whole presentation and see what you think. Now, for that, what that does is it kind of draws people in. It makes a compelling case that this is going to be a good option. It's premium, but it's so good that you wouldn't like it. Plus, doesn't it challenge people sometimes, Rick?
Right, because you can almost see them sometimes. Like, What? What do you mean I won't like it? Like you don't think I can afford it, or you know what I mean, or you don't think I'm worth it? You know what I mean?
And then people are like, I'll show this guy. I'm going to buy it.
Yeah, I'll show this guy. I'll buy it just to show him I'm worth it.
Just to show. Sometimes I actually sell a job like that just because people want to prove to me that they can't afford it and that they would. That I do want the best. I'm not some.
Right.
You don't know me, Rick. You don't know me very well. I do like the best.
Right.
And so sometimes that does do it. And let me tell you something. How many people are actually doing that before they give a presentation thing? Most people just, like I said, they're literally mailing it in, or they're just going to sit there and bore the customer. I'll tell you what, most presentations I see amount to salespeople reading literature, talking about SCERs and BTUs and, the R410A. They start talking about all the technical things.
Right.
But you're reading to the customer like a little baby.
I don't, and the amazing thing is I haven't said the word SEER in a year, or BTU or any of that stuff, or R410A. I haven't discussed any of that with a customer in a year.
Uh-huh. But you probably have called it, this is our earth-friendly refrigerant, probably, right?
Exactly.
This is our eco refrigerant, our green refrigerant.
Right, or highest return on your investment, or those type of things. Just words that no one else uses.
Right. That's great. So that to me, that thing where you warn people with the money, and then of course you say, well, how about the thing where do you make people take a guess, Rick? Or are you still doing that?
Yeah, sometimes I do it. I kind of feel it out with the customer. Some people are into guessing. Sometimes it depends on how it's going with the customer. I'll say, listen, I've already got it, because I use a PowerPoint, so I get down to the line where I'm about ready to show the price. That's when I say, all right, so you've seen all this. Give me a guess. What do you think it's going to cost? And they'll say, oh, I don't want to guess. Well, I'm not showing to you until you guess. You know what I mean? It depends on how your rapport with the customer and the type of customer they are. Yeah. And sometimes I say, oh, I left you off the, or I'll do this on them. How much did you pay for your last car? Oh, I paid, yeah, $20,000. All right, double it. So I'll get them to, I'll get them to guess it without them, I'll work it out of them a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
40,000. I'm like.
To me, the guessing part is pretty critical. That if you say, go ahead and take a guess what it is, I don't want to guess. And then I just say, well, what did you pay for your last car? $20,000. Then double it. $40,000. So and now let's say you come in at $17,000. Let's say your price is $17,000.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, $40,000, and then you come in at $17,000.
I'm just kidding. It's only $17,000.
I'm just kidding. Here's $17,000. Come on, you're easy. Come on, it's just a furnace and AC. What are you doing?
Right. Exactly. And there's another really good when you do that. The thing I really like about that is you get that feeling of agreement.
Yeah.
You say, see, I told you it was expensive. Yeah, you were right. You know what I mean? So now me and the customer had our first something that we agree upon.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become, even though it's a high price, it doesn't become a negative issue. It becomes something that we almost chuckle about.
Yeah, it's like, see, didn't I tell you it was expensive? And then sometimes what does the customer say when they're going, well, Rick, that's actually not a bad value, right? You ever have people say that to you?
Sometimes there's different kinds of customers. Some customers like, oh my God, you were right, and then you get agreement with them, and then you get the other customers who say, oh, that's not there. That's about what I was thinking. I get that all the time. Oh yeah, that's about what I thought it was going to be for a new system.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty unbelievable, isn't
It
it?
is, and that was a big eye-opening for me, because what I learned was what I thought a system was worth and what the customer thought the system was worth were vastly different. Mm-hmm. And I always assumed the customer thought it was worth less than I thought. And what I found was the majority of customers thought the system was worth more than I did. So the only thing that was double and sometimes even triple. So what I learned was the only thing that was keeping me from selling things higher was my own preconceived notions of value.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I first met you, you said, like, we're already $500 higher than the competition. 500 to 1,000,
right.
I said you should be twice. I said you shouldn't be 500. You should be like 2,500 more.
Right, and we really are now. And that's very true.
It should be 25,000 sometimes more.
Right.
Right.
So, sometimes I had one. I was $10,000 higher. Everybody else was $6,000 to $7,000. I was $17,000, and the guy bought it for me. And he called my boss and told him, listen, I want you to know I spent $10,000 more to go with you.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing when a customer calls your owner of the company and tells them that.
Yeah.
And because the customer has their budget, and then by the way we do your system, Joe, by giving all these different options, the customer reveals their budget.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have to ask about the budget. It's already being found because you're going to give them all these options, and those options they're going to find their place in those numbers. If your top number is 25,000, your bottom number is 6,500, they're going to find their place and tell you about what they think that they can do.
Right, and so what I feel is I really don't feel like I ever leave any money on the table, except for one event. When they buy the best from me, is the only time I feel like I might have left a little money on the table.
Yeah, how about when they buy the best one, they buy it real quick? Doesn't that get you mad?
Right. That's what happens. Like my first one's 20. I told you I had one that was 35,000. And it went all the way down to 10,000, and I showed him the $35,000 one. This was one of my first presentations I did using your system, and the guy bought the $35,000 system from me. It was like that's the one I want, just like that. So, with his, maybe I didn't find the budget. Maybe his budget was higher than I expected. But most of the time, I feel like I'm not leaving any money on the table because the customer is revealing their budget to me by the one they pick. Yeah,
that's true. That's true. And also the spread, doesn't the spread in the price also indicate something, Rick? I mean, if you have something that's 25,000, then you have something that's 5,000 at the bottom. Doesn't the 5,000 seem a hell of a lot cheaper now compared to 25,000?
Yeah, it's all contrasting. So once I show them something for 17,000 and I get down to 10,000, the 10,000 doesn't seem so bad. But if I show them the 10,000 first, it would seem terrible.
They think that's nuts. They think that's crazy. So you might as well get, if you're going to get crazy, you might as well get real crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've seen many times where guys sell repairs even, where the repair gets up to $5,000 and they actually wind up selling it. Like I've seen people selling repairs now for what you used to sell replacements for, right, Rick?
True. Yep.
That all of a sudden you'll see a $4,000 repair, and they were having a hard time getting $4,000 for a replacement, for a condensing replacement, something like that, right?
Yeah, it's true. Right, exactly.
And because the same principles apply there. If you start at 4,000 and bring it down to 500 for repairs, the same principle applies, meaning that they call the principle of contrast, where when you start with one option, it just freaks people out, and then let them have a soft landing by bringing them down to 500. The 500 seems like a heck of a lot less money, and then people are more comfortable with that $500 where they never would have been comfortable before.
Right, and it even does more than that, because when your bottom price is what everybody else's price is, now it makes all your competition look like they're cheap, or cheap quality, or they don't have the capability of offering the people the best.
Right.
So you really, by the way you do your presentation, you're really knocking the competition right out of the picture, because now the customer doesn't want to go cheap. And the only way they could go with anybody else is to get the cheap, and that's not what they want.
You're right. Hey, Rick, I'm going to go ahead and see if we can open the lines up. I guess that's about it for that part. I think, so basically, every single part of what we do in our system, to some degree, creates a higher price expectation. So when the customer, it kind of ramps them into makes them feel comfortable with the price so that they're not, shocked. I mean, I do get some people who hear about the system, Rick, or who come to some of the stuff and they don't quite get it. Maybe they're missing something. I say about the overwhelming majority, 99%, everybody seems like they're fine. Every now and then we get somebody who says something like, well, what if the customer wants to compare, your number versus everybody else's numbers? So what do you do in that situation where somebody really, they're dead set on getting more specific information, like they really want to hear about the SCER and the BTUs? You must run into that where people want to hear, the engineering data. You ever get that stuff? Because other guys have trained them how to do it?
Right. What I do is I just question the situation, why they feel that's important. And if you keep on questioning them on why they want to know that, why they feel that's important, a lot of times they'll really, you really want to at that point get them focused back on what makes important. It's not the BTUs, and anybody can sell a box. I tell them all the time. Anybody, that's such a small part of it. The BTUs isn't really where it's at. What's at is the services that the company's going to provide you. And the quality that we're going to provide. So if you really want to just buy a box, you can buy that from anybody. You don't really need us.
Right.
Right?
That's funny. And so then what do they say? Something like that. Well, service is important to me. I want to make sure that I get somebody here to make sure that this is going to be stand behind their product.
Right. I'm glad you feel that way, because that's how I feel when I buy something. It's really the service, right, that I'm looking for. And so, so now what should I do?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just do this one here.
Right. And you know another important thing about the system that is so good that I enjoy is I get to do what's right for the customer. I'm selling the customer nicer equipment. I'm selling them stuff that they're going to be happier with than that other junk that was offered by everybody else.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just paying a higher price. They're paying a higher price, but they're getting so much more. They're getting better services. I can afford to give them really good service. I can afford to give them 24 hours, 7-day-a-week service. I can afford to come for the next 10 years and maintain their equipment and change all their filters and not charge them anything for it.
Right,
so
right.
I get to give the customer the service they really deserve. Whereas before I was just trying to, sell the cheapest thing I could, get it installed, and then go to the next one. And I wasn't really able to afford to provide the customer with really better service because it wasn't in the price.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Did I tell you I bought a Toyota Prius, Rick, recently?
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And it's funny because I bought it because of the gadgetry. I love the instrumentation panel, but Julie bought it to save the planet. She loves to save the planet. Yeah. But bottom line is this. Here's an interesting fact: is that the greatest fear that people have of buying a car like that, like a hybrid car, is the breakdown. If something happens, they can't imagine Johnny Mechanic fixing some kind of a hybrid elite car with computer control and all this stuff. And so one of the things I do to ease your mind is I go, so you want to get that? If you want to get that car, here's what the car is going to cost. What they do is they charge more than the sticker price, and they also include the 6-year, 75,000-mile warranty, 100,000 mile drivetrain or battery. The battery is guaranteed for 100,000 miles. And all the things, and then they also threw in my case, gave me, 3 years of oil changes and maintenance. So bring it in every, 3 times a year to bring it in to get this thing fixed, get this thing maintained too, right?
Right.
And so it's interesting how they did that, how they positioned everything at the top, and then they also had these. So if I had asked. Like I said, well, is this maintenance mandatory? No, so you can get it without it. Just be a little bit, probably it would be $4,000 less without the if you don't want to have the 6-year, you want the 3-year, 36,000 mile warranty. That would be like $2,500 less or whatever. And I said, okay. How about the oil changes? Yeah, if you don't want that, that'll be $1,500 less. I'm like, okay, no, I want that. I do want it. So basically they kind of defeat you before you start by giving you all the stuff on the top options. So remember the old school auto dealerships when you bought a car, then you go get the financing manager and he would try and sell you more stuff after you bought it?
That under chassis treatment stuff they spray on there and the fabric guard and the extra warranty. Of course, I said no to all that crap because I felt like they're trying to screw me.
Yeah, you already bought. Once you make the decision, you don't want to. Obviously, so they changed their strategy to say, you know what, let's just offer that stuff like Joe Crisara and Rick Picard do, just offer it up front. Of course, I went with the whole thing because what am I going to do? I'm going to spend money. To me, I think the car is cheap anyway to start with. It's like $30,000. So I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Just go ahead and throw it in. I'm not.
You have a worry-free warranty.
Exactly. I don't have to worry about this. Okay, cool. And so, so that was a neat thing. It even included towing. They had a premium thing where they had towing and they call it gap insurance, where in case your insurance doesn't cover something, they would give you a new car, things like that. They're all included. So it's pretty cool stuff that I really like what they did, which is they basically did the whole thing where they made it all inclusive on the top end, and then they made me ask them to lower it if I wanted less.
Right.
Which I never did ask them. I just said, yeah.
Right, because you don't want to, because you deserve it. You work hard and you want the best. You don't want to go cheap on yourself.
Exactly. I'm saying, well, what am I saving here? A few $100. Just go ahead and let's get the whole damn thing. And so that's what. So isn't that what we do? That we present the top option only, and then we kind of make customers ask us about the other ones. Well, what about the third one, Rick? And then of course I don't give any other presentations other than the top one, right, Rick? I say, well, John, that's a good option. What do you like about it? And I make him present it.
Right.
Because I'm done presenting. After the first option, we're done presenting, aren't we, Rick?
Right.
So you do the first one. Everyone, if the customer asks about anything else, we say, well, what do you like about that one, John?
Right.
And make him present his own options. Because that's one. If you're going to pay less, you should make your own presentation on those. That's what I always say.
I like that.
That's funny, huh? All right, good. Let's go ahead and open up the lines to our guests and see what we have here. I'm going to go ahead and see what we got. If anybody's on the line and you're in a very noisy area, please quiet your phones, and we're going to open the phone lines. Here we go. All right, how's everybody doing out there?
Good.
This is Gary Bailey in Elmira.
Hello?
Hi, Joe. It's Gary Bailey in Elmira.
Hi, Gary. How are you doing today?
Great. You know, one of the things that as I was listening to you guys talk, I always think of these questions that I got to ask you guys, and then what usually happens if I listen, the questions I had get answered without me even asking if I listen every week.
It didn't happen, did it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It did? Oh, damn it. I thought we were going to have a question for me.
Well, actually, I have a situation or a thing I want to try out on a customer. We're always I emailed you about guys coming in asking for literature and things like that. And one of the things that I wanted to try out on customers was keep asking about brand and stuff like that, and say, well, geez, you know, if you were considering building your dream home, what would be more important, finding the best carpenter in town, or finding out, you know, if the lumber you was going to use was John's Manville or something like that.
That's a good analogy. It's like,
I'm going to use that one.
When you build your house, let's say you're going to build a deck, would the brand name of the wood be as important as the carpenter who's doing the work?
I like that.
That's really good.
And then if you accept that you want to find the best carpenter who is better able to decide which lumber is the best to use there, you know, the best carpenter in town that you just chose, or yourself, you know.
Oh, that's even better. Yeah, then exactly. Yeah. So you kind of
I like where he's going with that.
Yeah, you kind of two-stage him. You go, so the carpenter, and then who should select the wood? The carpenter, who's really the best guy, or just you, the homeowner? Who would know better?
Yeah,
right.
That's a couple of things I wanted to run by you to see. I felt like it would be right to me to say something like that to somebody, but I just wanted to throw it out.
I like that.
I think we should keep working and practicing on that. The way I like your two stages there, because you're kind of triangulating people, which is a good way to do things. You're asking one question, then asking a second question, which equals the answer.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's always
the
the best
answer
way
is
to go.
obvious.
Whenever you're doing things, that's always the best way to do it. I call it triangulating, where let me ask you one question, let me ask you a second question, which equals the answer to the third question too.
Right. Yeah.
That's great. That's great, Gary. Thanks for contributing. That might be worth the whole price of the admission right there. That's awesome.
Price of admission.
It's I guess the tele-seminar is worth what you pay for. Well,
right.
It is. Of course, you guys do pay for this one because this is members only. So actually you are paying for it. So good for you. Well, it might be. Hopefully, that makes it worth the month's membership right there. That's a great contribution, Gary. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to find out what you thought of that, and I felt it was. I don't see how anybody could answer any different than that. If you're going to build your dream home, you want the best carpenter. You're not going to go looking for John's Manville lumber, you know.
No, you don't get the wood. The wood is and then wouldn't the best carpenter know what the best wood is, or would? I mean, he works with it all the time. Who would know better?
Yeah, made sense to me.
I'm going to have to call that one my own there, Joe. I'll be telling all the guys at work I came up with that.
You steal that one, yes.
I'm stealing that one. That's a great one. I really like that.
It, Rick. Gary's going to have copyright to that one.
Oh no,
Gary, you might be able to write a book just on that one thing right there.
I'll have to send him a check.
Rick, every time you say it, just say Gary Bailey every time you say it.
I always say, as my friend Gary Bailey said.
Yeah.
Then I do my thing there.
All right.
Good job, Gary. Thanks for contributing.
Thank you.
Good. Did you get your answer on the thing with the guy stopping by? That's pretty good. That's a pretty good way to handle it right there. If you did that one.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I had other questions, but as I was listening, they kind of got answered. So.
Good.
I mean, whether or not you hear me or talk to me every week, I'm usually here.
I'm with you. I know. You guys are. There's a lot of people who are here every week, and I appreciate everybody's participation. Hey. There's got to be a lot better things to do to hang out with Joe Crisara on a Thursday night at, what time is it out there, 9 o'clock, almost 9 o'clock, going on 9 o'clock right now?
Right,
so, I appreciate all you guys on the East Coast. For me, I still got to go out and have some dinner yet, so I'm still early for me. I still have a whole evening yet ahead of me. But you guys, I really appreciate how hard you do work and how, you know what, it really tells me what everybody else says about it's all BS when somebody says, we're too busy, we can't go to any kind of school or education. And to me, it's like, how could you not try and learn more? That's what I think. I think if I'm still learning something, I know Rick is learning something. Hey, every time I do one of these calls, I learn something big every time, and I just learned something right there, Gary. That's a good one. Thank you. Yeah. How about anybody else? Anybody else have anything they want to discuss while they're here? We got about 5-10 more minutes. Anything else you hear that you wanted any questions answered, or any comments on what we said tonight? Go ahead. Or if you want to put them on the website on that form that you want to send it that way, you can do it that way if you'd like. I want to say a shout out to all of our friends from Oregon Heating out there. We've got Craig and the rest of his crew out there. Craig, I hope these guys are listening and you're getting these guys to do something out there. Now we have a Ken Kalki from Rochester, New York. He says, "What are you selling? $17,000 to $65,000 plumbing or HVAC?" Well, Ken, Rick, you're just selling? You just sell HVAC, right?
Correct, just HVAC, right?
You just sell HVAC systems. You don't do any kind of plumbing repair or that type of stuff.
No, no.
So you're selling about, and the average right now per day is. I figured if you're about three. You just hit $3.5 million recently.
Yes.
You just hit $3.5 million recently, and so this year, from January to this year so far, you're at $3.5 million, a little over $3.5 million, and so you figure that September, October, November, December is your good part of the year. That's when it gets cold, right?
Right.
So that's
traditionally the second half of the year is better than the first half.
Yeah.
I find.
Yeah, so you're a little bit over. So we're a little bit past halfway mark, and you're set to do about $6 million. Now, if you look at that, guys, if you're doing $1 million, that's $20,000 a week. So if you're doing $6 million, that's about $120,000 a week, right?
Right.
So there you go. So Ken, Rick is selling about $120,000 a week in HVAC replacement jobs and renovations for air conditioning. Now, you're not doing any remodeling or new construction, right, Rick?
No, we don't. I don't do any of that.
It's just all replacement and add-ons type of thing.
Right. So it has heat and AC, but needs to have it replaced. That's all I do.
Yeah. Okay. And every now and then you do maybe a cut-in job where somebody has a boiler and you do a duct system with an add-on too. Yeah,
well, not really a whole lot of that. I mean, we used to do more of that, but I can't remember the last time I did one of those.
Good. All right, come on, Joe. You spoke about this last time. Who's that? Who said that? I don't know who that is. They didn't name themselves. Okay. So we got somebody on the internet. Everybody's chiming in here. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? Some other things they have going. When you're using scarcity, what if it backfires on you? The customer says, okay, then I'll get some other prices. The sale can in there, can it?
Yeah. That's right. Can I answer that, Joe?
Sure, go ahead, Rick.
Well, and if that happens, then the customer wasn't really going to buy from you anyway. I mean, you can't lose what you haven't got. And
it really hasn't backfired, Rick.
Backfired because you don't have it.
It wasn't like it was your job. Yeah, Mark, who's asking us, Mark up there in New England. It's not really backfiring because if you didn't have the job to begin with, and if the customer's perception that you're of no value, that you are somebody of no value, then how did you blow it? I don't get that.
Right.
You didn't blow it at all. You weren't going to get the job. You simply weren't going to get the job, and that's all there was to it.
Right. So I think that's an indication too that you haven't built enough value. You haven't shown the customer that you're different and that you're worth more money. If they do decide to take it and go somewhere else, so you can't lose what you don't have. So that could happen.
Exactly. So how many times has it happened, Rick? How many times have you said to the customer, maybe we should just reschedule or cancel? Hey, if you want to get some other people, you should go ahead and get some other people. How many times has that backfired on you?
I am so shocked it's never happened.
I always tell people that in my seminar. Like I'm having the total immersion in Los Angeles this week, and I always say the same thing. I'm like, people say, if I have somebody, let's say I'm on a sales call and somebody says, we're just kind of out getting some price, just shopping around. I'm like, okay, why don't you do this then? Why don't you let me know when you're done shopping, and I'll just come back when you're ready. I was under the impression you want to do something. I didn't know. Let me go ahead and cancel it if you aren't interested in anything. I thought you were going to put an air conditioning unit in. It's just our mistake. It must be our mistake. And of course they go, wait, no, don't go. Don't reschedule. I want to get some options here. I want to see what you got going. Okay, because why do you think you need AC, John? Well, because we've gone 20 years without it. My wife doesn't even like it. Yeah, if she doesn't like it, then why don't we just forget it then? I don't understand why you'd even like AC then. That doesn't make sense. Did you ever have somebody say they don't like AC, do you, Rick?
Yes. Yeah, I've had people tell me they don't like AC.
I can't wait when it used to turn me off when it happened. Now I just can't wait when it happens. I just love when it happens now.
Right. Yeah. Usually it's the husband or wife who doesn't like it, right? No. Here's what it is. I get all the time. Oh, I don't really like AC, but my wife wants it. That's what I get all the time.
Yeah.
So.
And then when you say, well, then why do you even? I'll tell you what. If you don't like it, why? This isn't going to be very popular. I'm not going to be a very popular guy if only half of the people here like me.
Exactly.
So why don't we just go ahead and? How about this one? When you see the customer, you ever do this one? Like, remember the old days, Rick, when you were in the middle of a presentation, and the customer would, like, the wife would get up in the middle of the presentation. We just kind of ignore it. Remember those days?
Right. Yeah. I told you that happened to me, and when I said to the husband, I says, "You mind if I ask you a question?" He said, "No." What did I do to drive your wife away like that? She really doesn't seem to be that interested now. What did I do wrong?
Yeah. And then what did he do? He said, "Carol, get back over here."
Yeah. Okay. I said, "No, you don't have it. I mean, it must be something I'm doing. I mean, if oh no, and it's amazing how you would think that that wouldn't work, but it really works." I'll
tell you one thing I always do. I go. Here's what I did recently. I was on something, and a lady got up in the middle of my presentation and just started leaving, because what that's a tactic, because I don't want to hear it this way. I can't decide. We have to think about it later. Because you're setting up to think it over. If you keep presenting, when you got two people in front of you, a husband and wife, then the wife gets up and leaves the table.
Right.
And you keep presenting like there's nothing happening right now.
Well, yeah, I have to discuss it with my wife now. Right. Yeah, because then he's going to say.
Imagine if you were a comedian, or let's imagine if you were a singer in a band or whatever. Let's say you're an opera singer, and you're in the middle of your opera, and 50% of the audience got up and left.
Right.
How would you think your opera's going right now? You think
not very good.
You're going to get a good review at the end?
No.
So you can just tell people, it's like, you know what, John, I feel like I'm not doing a good job. I mean, 50% of my audience just left me right now.
That's right.
That's what I always say. It's like, I don't see how it's going to be good. 50% of the audience just left.
Right.
It's kind of like a singer where half the audience leaves when I'm in the middle of my song. I screwed this up, didn't I?
Right.
Like,
and the reason that works is because you take responsibility. That'll work. You can't blame them for it. But if you take responsibility for it, I really screwed this up. Now, because she'll come back because she wants to rescue you now. Oh no, you didn't mess it up. So that's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I like that. I just want to bring that one. I think it's a funny one.
Yeah, I like that.
I think that Carpenter one is really good tonight, and that's a funny one there. Anybody else have anything else they want to go over? Or check out some people on the internet. Oregon. Sorry, I don't want to say Oregon. It's Oregon Heating up there. Craig and his boys up there, his posse. Rick, they asked a question. When you spoke about looking professional, what do you think about company shirts for the sales staff? Is that too much? So, Rick, what do you?
No, that's what I wear. I wear a company shirt. It's a button-down shirt. That has gem plumbing on it, so that when I come to the door, they know I'm not a vagrant. And then I just wear a nice pair of slacks and a nice pair of black shoes.
So don't you think shoes mean for a salesperson? I think shoes mean a lot to me.
Right.
That if you don't go there with army boots, or don't go there with gym shoes or PF Flyers.
Right.
Wear something that's a nice leather shoe that looks like a professional. That's one of those things that says to me. It's like, who told me one time that your shoes never lie? That people look at your shoes and can say, this guy's kind of a bum if he's got crappy shoes on. Like, he can't even take care of his shoes. How's he going to take care of my furnace and air conditioning unit? That's one of the things I have been taught. And I tell you what. I wear Echo shoes, which is Italian shoes, and they look like normal shoes. I mean, they aren't like real dressy ones, but they are a good quality leather shoe that stays clean, and they don't scuff up very easy. So I make sure that I make sure I take care of my feet. Plus I am diabetic, so I make sure I take care of my feet as well. But I'm a big believer in good shoes and also clean pants without holes in them. I don't think you're doing yourself a favor by going in blue jeans like Jethro Bodine from the Beverly Hillbillies.
You're right.
I think you gotta wear some. I mean, what kind of pants do you wear, Rick?
Just a pair of. The company supplies me. They're almost like a work pant, but they're like a nice pleat in them. Almost like I guess you might call them like khakis. A docker, exactly. Something. They're more like a docker.
Yeah. Wait, you know what? Maybe we should start a Rick Picard dress line.
Sure.
Yeah. Yes. Who's that?
Who's what?
Somebody else out there?
No.
There's some background noise.
Said Joe.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick, I got a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
When you're using your PowerPoint presentation, are you having any brand names on those PowerPoints? In other words, when you go to your most premium option, your Platinum Plus product, and it says, your highest return on investment of that, is it plugging in equipment at that point in time or a brand at that point in time?
No brand. What I do is when I press the button, it will show a condensing unit, but it won't. I'll pick one that you can't see a brand on it.
Okay.
And it'll just say, whatever description I pick, but it will never say C rating, BT rating, or brand.
Okay. And it just lists the highest return on investment, quietest system available, and
right.
it lists all the way back down with the service built into it, and then...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I'll do. I think I'm going to go ahead and take a few PowerPoints like that. I'm going to go ahead and post them on the site with that type of thing, so everybody can see what we're doing on that, because that is key. I think that's if you're going to use PowerPoint for a presentation format, which you can do, but just make it simple so it doesn't have a lot of different language, right, Rick? You just make it very simple and very primary.
Because all you do is you step in it when you put brands. Because when you start talking brands and BTUs and C rating, all you're doing is now putting yourself on the same level as all your competition, and you're clouding the issue. Now the customer gets stuck on, well, I heard this brand was better than that brand, and this guy's giving me 36, and you're giving me 30, and you're getting their focus away from your service, which really is important, and onto the box, which is really unimportant.
Right. I'd like to be able to use that type of presentation as opposed to sitting there and writing it out. I don't think that's going to work.
Right. Yeah, what I do is I have them already all pre-made, and I have a laptop with a screen twist.
Okay, is that Hewlett one?
What's that?
Is that Hewlett-Packard one to where you can just crank the top?
I actually have it's a Toshiba one, but I just take it, and so I have it facing towards me when I'm doing whatever I'm doing. When I'm ready to present, I spin the screen, and so that the customer and me can look at the screen together, and I make my presentation.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
But
I'm gonna put some of those up there. I'll go ahead and I'll put them in the site in the sales forms, and I'll do them in the feature resources so everybody can take a look at that. Because it's if you're going to use laptop, it's not a bad way of doing it. And the brand name is not important, right, Rick? I mean, I got you off of that about a year ago. I got you off the brand name crack.
And I really was. I was really into the brand. I was, what I did in my presentations, I started them out with, American Standard, 2-stage, and another thing. And as time went on, I started taking brand names out, then I took out BTUs, and I took refrigerant. And what I found that as time went on, I got a lot less resistance from the customer. I got them more focused on making a decision because I took all that stuff that was clouding the issue out of the way.
Right.
So I have to say, Joe, you were right that time.
Right. I've learned how to do that, and it hasn't been an issue to me as of late. But I was just
Mike, you're on a little bit of a roll there. How many have you got in a row? You're pretty much on a roll where you haven't lost one for a while.
I think I'm out of the last 16, I've closed 15. But my average ticket went down because they weren't full systems. So,
that's all right. Your closing ratio is good, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of like. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop and me to go bad and get a bad habit going again. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's why if you keep on thinking like that, you won't. You keep on looking for it. I know I'm doing the right thing when I leave the home and the customer says to me, "Oh yeah, by the way, what kind of equipment am I getting?" Or what size is it? I mean, I get that all the time. It's after the sale is made and the agreement signed and we get them on the schedule ready to do the work. Sometimes I may come up with that question.
Right.
How do you answer that question, Rick? What do you do when they say that?
Yeah, I'll just tell them at that point. I'll ask them. I said, "Why is there a particular brand that?" I'll ask them. Really, I'll get them to reveal a little bit why they're asking the question now. And a lot of times, I'll say to them, "Do you really care what kind I'm offering you?" Well, I was just kind of curious. I'm like, "Well, is there any potential you have in your mind?" And so I'll do that a little bit with them. They'll say, "Well, yeah, I've heard of Lennox or American Standard." I says, "All right. So if I had American Standard, how would you feel about that?" Well, I'd feel, "Yeah, that's good." That's what I have, So first, what I really do is when they ask the question, to be quite frank about it, I want to find out why they're asking me the question first. And once I know why they've asked me, then I'll tell them.
Yeah, right. Find out the answer first that they want to hear, and then if they want something different than you have, then you can say something like, "Well, I do have that one too, but if you want something better, that's why I put in something a little bit better this time." And then you can pole vault your brand or whatever you're doing there, right? Yeah.
Right.
Good. How to get started with service contract? So I know I had a guy from Los Angeles asking here how to get started with service contracts. I think that when it comes to what you're selling, Rick, you're probably the service contract starter best friend, right? I mean, because if you're out there selling, because let's face it, Ray, you're out there from Los Angeles and you're saying how to get started with service contracts. There's no better way to get started than when selling a 10-year package of planned service that Rick or a guy like me or other people who are like Craig, I know Craig from Oregon up there, he'll sell a job with a 10-year planned service package. So right off the bat, every time, Rick, you sell one, I mean, how many planned service, Rick, if you could take a guess, how many, and you say you close a couple deals a day, let's say, how many planned service agreements do you think you sell a week?
Oh, God. Well, I bet you I sell 5 10-year service contracts where they're all, where there's 10 years, the next 10 years, and I bet you I sell 10 5-year, right?
So you're telling me, Rick, that over the whole week, you think you're probably selling 100 planned service agreements a week by yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody hear that? What better way to get started selling plan? If you're just getting started selling planned service, I tell you one thing: nothing better than selling them in 10 5-year packs. Because now all of a sudden you can grow your service department. You want to grow a service department? Pre-sell some planned service for people. This way you kind of got you got tomorrow's service sold today, right?
Right, and customers really love it because they feel they know their true cost, and they feel like they're getting the service at today's prices. Because what is a service contract going to cost in 10 years? So they feel it's a good value, and it is.
Somebody says, why would I want to buy 10 years of planned service today? I could say, well, you don't have to. You could just go ahead and just buy this third option, which doesn't have any planned service in it, or just a 1-year planned service. But, a lot of people, just tell people, a lot of people like to buy, tomorrow's service at today's price, and this way the prices can't go up and you're locked in.
Right.
And also with the filters and pads and that type of stuff, too, right? You can pre-sell. So whatever you're charging for filters and pads, if let's say you're selling Space Guard filters for like $87 a year or whatever, well, then you can just sell them right now. Sell it right now for $870 and drop ship them on the job. Is what you sold.
That's what I do. So when we install it, I bring 10 additional filters and I leave them there.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise you're going to put the burden on your service department to have to sell a new pad every year. Plus, they're going to if you have UV bulbs, right, Rick? If you do a UV light thing, well, then you're going to have to put the burden on the service guys to keep selling new bulbs every year, as opposed to you just restoring them back to 100% strength. It's really not fair to. Is it really fair to a customer? You know, one of the biggest malpractice things I see, Rick.
I know. Before you even say it, as a customer feels like every time they see one of your people, they're trying to sell them something.
Yeah, it's malpractice to spend $25,000 with you and then try and sell you something, right?
Right.
Just sell me something now and I'm done with it. There's no more selling me anything, right? Unless there's something new that comes out. Then I'm set to go.
Right.
And so like when Ken from Rochester asks, what are you selling? Well, you're not just selling equipment. You're selling equipment, air quality systems, duct sealing, duct cleaning, things that, are just 10 years of service, 10 years of filters, 10 years of bulbs. So this way it's all been pre-sold for the next 10 years. You don't have to, the service guys can go out there. Now, if you have some service guys who are challenged to sell, like, let's face it, if you have 20 guys in your service department, 5 or 6 of them are just not going to be good at selling it. Probably more like 5 or 6 would be good, and 15 wouldn't be good. Probably.
Right. Exactly.
And so now you got a way to develop young technicians without putting pressure on them to sell. You've already sold it, and that's pretty much it.
Right.
So to me that's a good way to get started. So Ray, I hope that answers your question, and if it doesn't, you can always email us later on. And thanks for dropping by and giving us that note on the internet webcast. Anybody else who wants to ask a question right now or make a comment? I know, is Rodney Coop out there? Rodney?
Yeah, I'm here, Joe.
Are you? So are you doing better, I hope? Last week it sounded like you were ready to go in the closet and suck your thumb. Are you doing better?
No. I really wasn't having any problems. I just wanted to hear your comment on how strong a language you should use or that you should keep with a customer. But hey, I do have a question for you.
Good.
We're doing a trade show this weekend, a home show, and I'm just wondering, kind of like, how much information should you not share with the customer at a home show?
Yeah, that's a good one. You know what? Here's the best thing at a home show you got to do. If you're going to go to a home show, try to avoid being the normal traditional thing, which is just kind of standing around handing out the cards and getting sore feet, right? That's what normally happens, right?
Yeah. Right.
The best thing you can do is to take a lesson from these guys who sell the ladders at the home show. You ever see those guys?
Yeah.
You ever see the kind of crowd that hangs around their booth?
Yeah, because they're standing on ladders.
Well, not just that. They also got
demonstrating. Right.
Well, but they're doing something. Same with the guy who he sits behind that counter with some, I don't know, I forget what the hell it is he does, but he does a little show. Oh, the meat. He sells the knives, right?
Ginsu knife.
Exactly.
Yeah, he sells the knives at the home show. So if you can do something like get yourself a little podium, get up there and give a little presentation on something. Start out. There's a whole thing to do on trade shows. The thing to do on trade shows like that is to gain people's attention. You need somebody who's a showman. You know, you'd be better off hiring a magician, for instance. Bring him to your booth and have him do some card tricks. Draw a crowd in while you can now give it. Now we're going to give it. And this trick is just like the magic that you get with our air quality system, where it removes dust and dirt. You know what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
That would be much more involving and much more fun. Well, I tell you right now, when you go to a home show, I've seen people who make it real fun. They hire an entertainer. If they either entertain themselves by one of the best things I did was learn how to do that card trick where I make people do guess the cards and the whole thing like that. I say, now that's just like the magic. See your sales. Just like there, it goes up. It disappeared, and that's just like your objections are going to disappear when you use this system. And so it works. And so you got to. So think about how you can create a connection based on entertaining people, because that's what people go there for, is to entertain themselves, and then create a connection between that entertainment and whatever you're trying to do, and that'll be and then you got people's attention to talk about the stuff. You can't just go up there and blather on, though. You have to have something that breaks the pattern, draws people in, makes it fun, and then talk about your product.
Now, Joe, do you think home shows are worth doing?
If you do it right, it's worth doing. But if you do it wrong, like stand around and get sore feet, you might as well just forget it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying there? If you go there and do it right, you can really you got to break the pattern, make it fun, get people in there, have a point to whatever kind of trick you're doing, whatever kind of entertainment you're doing. That entertainment's got to tie in to you right into a presentation, so you can give yourself a 10-minute presentation on air quality or on whatever it is. And this is just like the air quality. This makes the dust go away in your home. See, it's disappeared. Ooh, everybody's gathered around. Ooh, they clap. Yay. And this is just like the air quality system that we have and how it makes the dust in your home disappear. Let's explain how we do that. You just keep going and see who hangs out, you know. And all of a sudden, because you're more capturing attention, that's what I would say, Rodney. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I'll send you a picture after we do it. You'll be pretty impressed. We got some great ideas going.
Good. I'm glad. I like to hear it. That sounds great. Okay, anybody else? We're going to wrap it up. But time to go. Anything else? All right, guys. Hey, Rick, thanks for stopping by this week. You're like Johnny Carson. You're on vacation for 2 weeks.
Right.
So I'm like Ed McMahon. I got to fill in for you.
I'm leaving tomorrow. Gone for 2 weeks. Woohoo!
I'll let you go. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
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 The moderator has disconnected. The call will now end.